tattoos in the workplace overall. I
Oh, well,
just
good, because our first question kind of applies to that.
yeah. See, you caught me on the recording, but yeah, I just don't.
I did.
I mean, I get it. Tattoos are works of art. They're very beautiful at times. Like, but I mean, there are places. Want it on your arm, on your shoulder. I get it. But I've got people. They come in. They got tattoos on their fingers, and they got tattoos that come down from their arm and go all the way down into their hand, so it looks like a spider web, and it's just it's I don't know. I think they're a little uncouth in some ways, unsophisticated. The ones that come up into the neck, onto the face, around the
Yeah.
ears. Um, I guess if you're working at Starbucks, that's great. But if you want to come work at my resort, uh, don't leave the tattoos at home.
You know that's not how they work, right, Chuck? All
Yeah.
right, so hi everyone. You're here at the question and answer episode here at the HR Stories podcast. We went right into it. Here's the question before us: Can you have policies about tattoos and piercings? And then the second part: Are there any religious concerns around that?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to start, Chuck, on this one because obviously your policy is no tattoos at all.
No,
And
no, no, hold on.
oh, oh, oh.
The policy at the company I work for is no um, no offensive tattoos. It's a very broad policy, and I basically have built into their no tattoos up above the neckline, collarbone, just because we're getting people with some crazy things up and down their neck and up around their ear and facial tattoos, but we do allow tattoos. Okay, we do allow
I was
tattoos.
saying your personal opinion
Oh,
is
my
no
personal, yeah,
tattoos.
yeah, or very limited. I mean, you got
Right.
one tattoo here or there, but when it's on the fingers and all that stuff, it's just a little overkill. It's a little
I think
overkill.
I don't mind tattoos at all. I love tattoos. I think it's a part of personal expression. It tells me who you are and what you like and what's important to you. So I don't have a problem with tattoos, but I do think it depends on the work environment, right? I would not expect to see that um, facial, like I would not expect people to have lots of tattoos in a big legal form. Now, listeners might be like, oh, I work in a legal firm and we have tattoos all over the place. All right, well, that's fine, right? And so, again, I guess depending on your clients and who you're representing and that kind of stuff. But I think the basic line here is yes, you can have policies about tattoos and piercings to best represent your brand. But I will follow up that you need to be careful because some religions require tattoos.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not aware of
Right.
that, but we look, they're much more mainstream now than they were, and I have a lot of employees that have tattoos, and no one ever seems to notice it as much. But like you said, in the business, in the environment you're in, it just, I'm not a big fan of the finger tattoos and the facial tattoos.
Right. Yeah.
But the question then becomes, what is considered offensive, right?
Right.
What's our barrier for offense? And I think you have to kind of frame it up in the terms of your harassment guidelines, really. Um, Racial, could it, racial, sexual, um, um, anti-religious type of tattoos that could be offensive, and that if those were like jokes or those were comments or those were statements, I guess the
Oh
tattoo
yeah.
would be the same thing. Uh, so, uh, so yes, you can have policies. We have them. We have them here in Florida. Some companies allow them. Many do now. But some companies will say no visible tattoos, which
Yeah.
that does limit their labor pool.
Right. It can. Right. It depends on where they work. I asked in one of my workshops what kind of policies, what unique policies do you have in there? And somebody said they have a no hickey policy.
Oh, ho, ho, hello.
Yeah, and so there was a rash of hickeys going around, and I said, "Oh, well, do you allow tattoos?" Because I'm going to say, "Well, that's just a tattoo," and they're like, "No, we don't allow tattoos either." But I just thought it was a very funny policy, like no hickeys, because these unique policies. There's always a story behind them, right?
Yeah,
And so
right.
that's it. All right, question number 2. Do you want to read question number 2, Chuck?
Yeah, it's a little extensive. So this is from our team of one, HR team of one community, which is a membership group over or almost 4,000 members. It's on Facebook. It is free to join. So if you are an
Woohoo!
HR or business professional and your role covers HR and employee relations items, you definitely want to be part of the HR team of one community. Is a private group, and you do need to to join. So,
You know what
anyways,
I like about our group, Chuck?
what's
Before
that?
you go on, you know what I like about our group? We we rarely have issues with people saying nasty things,
Yes, you're
people
right.
very civil, very, let's, how can we help you? Let's get there, right? We don't have what other groups have, right? We don't have those people dropping those things in there. So I really appreciate that. I think you and I, the admins, do a good job of making sure that stuff doesn't show up. But I just think it's the people that are there. They're very helpful. They want to help you. They want to ask questions of you. And so come share your wisdom, ask the questions you need. It would be great to see you there.
Yeah, exactly. So, this would be a recent question from an anonymous member because, yeah, it's one of those questions where they don't want anyone to know. We allow anonymous um, questions. So, this person says, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this situations that are case by case?" So, she or this person goes on to say, "Our business owner is trying to revise some of the policies in our handbook. They want to remove any mention of situations that that they want themselves to make determinations on a case by case basis. In other words, they don't want it mentioned in the handbook, but are willing to deal with them if someone approaches, uh, the owner. So, as an example, this person goes on to say, we don't have a short term disability plan. We have our own maternity leave policy. And we were going to add that we will cover extended leave for illnesses and injuries and so on a case by case basis and require proper supporting documentation. However, they want to remove it entirely and just want to wait for someone to come request it, but not include it in the handbook. So that's one example of several. This person goes on to say, personally, they feel that these things need to be stated in the handbook, but they wanted to get our opinion. And a couple of people made comments, and I don't know. I've got some thoughts too. You probably have some thoughts. What do you think, John?
I get it from the business owner's perspective, right? I think the business owner's like, well, if I put this out there, then everyone's going to come and they're going to take advantage of it and they're going to abuse it. And I don't want to do that. And I get that and I understand that. I think what makes me nervous is that the policies or how they decide on a case by case basis could be very inconsistent and could lead to claims of discrimination. So, for instance, somebody comes, there's somebody that's been working for that company for 40, not for 40 years, but let's say they're over 40, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
45, 46. They've been working for the company. They're not a great performer, but they have an issue that's going to have them out for a long term. It doesn't fall under FMLA. And they go to the owner and says, look, this is happening. I need to deal with this. And the owner says, nah, we're not going to do anything with that. And then a person that's 25 comes in with something similar, and the owner goes, yeah, no problem, we'll cover that. And then we have somebody that's older, and it
Yeah.
looks like now we're
Yeah.
discriminating against somebody about age. And this could be about race, it could be about religion, it could be about anything. It makes me nervous. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, it just makes me nervous.
Yeah. And so it sounds like they were going to still put in the handbook, hey, we're going to do this on a case by case basis. The owner said, yeah, we're still going to do that, but I don't want to publicize that. I
Right.
don't want to publicize that. So as long as they're consistent, and Dan and Rachel Presley, who are on the group, they said, the handbook is meant to be guidance, not every single policy verbatim. So they're saying, if the owner wants things on a case by case basis, the court could look at it as a discriminatory practice, just what you said. So our job is to advise and talk about the liabilities, but ultimately at the end of the day, if that's what the owner wants to do, you as the HR person need to decide, is this someone I want to continue working for? Is this someone that I want to stake my HR career and reputation
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, again, right, as long as that is consistent, right? And so if, let's say, they adopt this, right? And so we're adopting this, going to be a case by case. Somebody comes up and says, blah blah blah, I need to take this short-term leave, and the owner goes, sure, no problem, we're going to do it. And then another person comes up, then the HR person then needs to say to the owner, hey, remember that instances 2 years ago, we gave that person that short-term disability, very similar situation, we should also give it to this person, and then argue for that. If the owner goes, nah, I'm not going to do it, your job then is like, well, here's the risk, here's
Mm-hmm.
the risk to the organization, owner, you get to make that decision on that, right? And so there's another way to play it, as you're the kind of the referee in there, can be really beneficial too, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Good
Oh
conversation
yeah.
here.
Good. All right, I got a question. This comes from one of my workshops. We were doing, I think it was employment law. And here's what the person asked. They have a CDL driver, a commercial driver, licensed driver, who hauls diesel from a terminal to oil field locations. He worked a shift where there were severe storms, where he was caught in a small tornado or straight line winds, right? So something happened. His truck got knocked over. It was very scary. So since that day, he has disabling anxiety when storms are in the forecast. So would this be a disability, and would the employer need to consider a reasonable accommodation?
Well, as we often say, we're not doctors.
Yes,
So I think the
Dr.
first thing
Smikian.
is, yes, thank you, Dr. Tallheimer. Doctor, doctor,
Doctor,
doctor,
doctor.
doctor, doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Little flashback there, folks.
Yeah. So, listen, could it be considered disabling anxiety? Maybe. I don't know. Um, yeah, I think you need to start with the process of, if that's what he says, and he's saying, oh, there's a storm in the forecast, I can't take this load from the terminal to the oil field location. Okay, well, is that what's the accommodation here? And if there's like, I just can't do it, we're gonna have to cancel the run today. Well, that may not be a reasonable accommodation. So I would start with, hey, give me a doctor's note. Let me understand exactly what is going on here, and then I'd make a decision. Reasonable or not. I would say
Yeah.
it may not be based on kind of what I'm reading here, but yeah.
Yeah. And I think so. The way I read this is this person has post traumatic stress disorder, right? There's this terrible event happened to them. And now, because of that event, they have post traumatic stress disorder. And let's say that is right. And so they went to the doctor. The doctor said, yes, this is what you have. And one of the one of the accommodations the doctor's office is not to put them in that situation. Everything else is fine, but just not to put them in that situation. Now it becomes, to Chuck's point, will this become an undue hardship to the organization? Now, this particular, there's more to the story, Chuck, is that um, they are, it's not a typical 9 to 5 job, right? And so it's sort of like, hey, we need to run this uh, truckload of diesel out to the oil field on next Thursday.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some variation where they could be like, all right, well, there does seem to be a forecast for next Thursday. There's going to be a storm, but could you do it on Tuesday so you're back in time and you're safe and you're feeling comfortable? Or could you do it on Friday, the day after, right? And
Right.
so could you move the schedule around? That would be a reasonable accommodation depending on the situation.
Yeah. I
And and again, we don't know enough details. Are
We don't know
there,
enough details, but
yeah,
could
are
it
there
be?
drivers and stuff?
Yes. The answer is yes. Could it be considered? Yes, it could be. So now you have to follow it through. So great,
Yeah.
great
And follow
questions.
through,
Yeah,
and just to say, Chuck, right, to follow through the interactive process under the ADA.
there you go.
And if you haven't gone there, a great resource is the Ultimate Guide to HR Checklist, but also askjan.org is a
Yeah.
great resource as well.
The Ultimate Guide to HR Checklist available on Amazon.com. That's our book. You get a lot for that book. So sold out in HR conferences around the country. So,
Woohoo!
all right, John, thanks for joining me today on the HR Stories Podcast Q&A edition. I guess we'll see you next week. And I know
Yeah.
you got some big news coming up about your leadership guru-ness and something you're doing for
Yeah,
leadership for the management
I'm so
communities
excited.
around the country. So we look forward to hearing more about it.